You're listening to Packers Talk Radio Network.
PackersTalk.com. Eddie Lacy, Mike Daniels, Gilbert Brown, Don Barclay, Micah Hyde, your Green Bay Packers, yesterday's legends and today's superstars. From corporate or non-profit events to private parties, add some spice, hire a Packers player from Mayfield Sports Marketing. For details, just go to PackersTalk.com and click on Player Appearances.
Are you looking for some signed Packer memorabilia?
Look no further than Waukesha Sports Card.
If the Green Bay Packer can sign it, Waukesha Sports Cards has it.
Check our website for upcoming Packer player and legend signings.
Go to WaukeshaSportsCards.com.
Rodgers will go conventional. He will do it himself. Touchdown, Packers. Aaron Rodgers into the end zone.
You're listening to the best Packer radio show on the internet.
Cheesehead Radio.
Reach the audience.
Guess who's back?
So they tried to address the problem, but so far, like you said, nothing.
I guess the bright side is it happened early enough on that there's time.
What are you talking about? We're going to talk about the pass rush. You can't talk about what's not there.
If we don't start pushing at pocket backs and getting some pass rush, we're going to tear the secondary apart.
Seats in the bowl at Lambeau will definitely outweigh the demand for seats.
Guess who's back? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cheesehead Radio. Guess who's back? It's the 4-0 Green Bay Packers. We haven't seen a 4-0 Green Bay Packers since what? 2011. It is pretty cool, pretty awesome. Cheesehead Radio here in the Cheesy Studio to celebrate and talk about it with you. My name is C.D. Angeli. You can find me over at CheeseheadTV and PackersTalk.com. I am joined by my one solitary co-host this evening, Jayme Snowden from Cheesehead TV. Jayme, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. There's all this extra room in the Cheesy Studio. I can do some yoga while we're on the show.
Normally, I can't kick back the Bracco lounger all the way, so this is actually kind of cool. There's more room, especially with John not here.
Yes.
Speaking of John Boy Rehor, Jersey Al Bracco, they're not with us. They're out off doing. Where are they at tonight, Jayme?
They are at a secret meeting to get funding for liquid cheese, I believe.
That could be.
It's not secret anymore now they said it, but
They could be Masons too. I have no idea. Anyway, I want to throw a quick
probably a little bit of both.
It could be. A quick thank you to our sponsors. Do a fantastic job for us and do a great job for you if you give them an opportunity. Mayfield Sports Marketing. You heard their commercial at the top of the show. Head over to Twitter at Mayfield Sport. Give them a follow. And, of course, our good friends over at Waukesha Sports Card. That's Walk, W-A-U-K Sports on Twitter. Give them a follow. They got some great stuff for you. Feel free. Tonight, Cheesehead Radio is going to welcome back a voice we haven't heard for, I think, a little over a year. It's Eric Baranczyk. Who's Eric Baranczyk? You will see him over at PackersNews. That's the Green Bay Press-Gazette's Packer News arm. He writes a lot of articles, usually with Pete Doherty and a couple other guys. Does a great job and very knowledgeable, and love listening to him. He's going to be a great time later on in the show. So why should we sit and keep talking about it? Let's get to this week's Packers News.
Jersey Al and Jayme bring you this week's Packer News.
Well, the Green Bay Packers are one of 6 remaining undefeated teams in the NFL today. It's a 4-game winning streak to start the season, and it culminated with Sunday's dismantling of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, despite entering the game with 2 of the team's top wide receivers out of action, the Packers took yet another monkey off their back this season and sent notice around the league that this is the early team to beat.
With 2 home games upcoming against the Rams and Chargers, the Packers have a good shot to end up 6-0 before entering their bye week. ESPN's Power Index has the Packers favored against every other team on their schedule, with the exception of games in Denver and in Arizona. The game against the Broncos will be their first game after the bye week. While 14-2 doesn't sound all that bad, we're still shooting for a 16-0 regular season. Thank you.
Now, while all seems to be coming up roses right now for the Packers, the offensive line has continued to struggle, with Don Barclay getting victimized repeatedly by the 49ers pass rush, leading some fans to be calling for an early replacement. As if on cue, injured tackle Brian Bulaga took part in all of the individual drills today at practice, and many are hoping that the torn meniscus that was expected to keep Bulaga out for 4 to 6 weeks could have healed itself in less than 3.
On the other side of the ball, the Packers' defensive line, aided by the return of suspended defensive lineman LaTroy Guion and the sudden appearance of linebacker Nick Perry, has held opposing running games in check since Matt Forte ran wild on them in Week 1. The Packers will face an unknown this upcoming week against the Rams when they try to stop rookie running back Todd Gurley. Gurley exploded for 146 yards on 19 carries on Sunday, leading the Rams to an upset win over the previously unbeaten Cardinals.
In the unmistakable irony department this week, the fallout from Clay Matthews mocking Colin Kaepernick's celebration and letting him know that you ain't Russell Wilson, bro, reached new heights. Now, according over to Mike Freeman at Bleacher Report, 49ers players referred to Clay Matthews as a quote-unquote punk who, quote-unquote, crossed the line. Now, yes, while we Packer fans take umbrage with opposing players who mock the discount double check or try to jump in the stands here at Lambeau, we would advise the 49ers that before calling Clay Matthews a punk, to tell your own quarterback not to show up to post-game pressers with gold chains and a sideways baseball cap.
We would be remiss if we didn't take a little time to talk about the man presently playing football on an entirely different plane of existence. Aaron Rodgers has taken his MVP status of last season and doubled down with some amazing play this year, leading the league with 11 touchdown passes, a 125.9 passer rating, and 0 interceptions, knock on wood. And most importantly, regularly making what is impossible look ridiculously easy. But with injuries to Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams, how important was the re-signing of James Jones? Rodgers has a perfect 158.3 passer rating when targeting Jones, the receiver who he hadn't thrown a pass to since January of 2014.
And finally, if you didn't think Julius Peppers was bleeding true green and gold, well, you might have been right. But apparently, that's over now. Julius Peppers thinks this Green Bay gig is worth hanging around for, and he's put his Highland Park 8,000-square-foot home up for sale. Now, if you're interested, it is listed at about $2.5 million. With 3.5 sacks in his first 4 games, I think Packer fans will agree it's time that he left his checkered Chicago past behind him.
And that was the latest in Packers news. Next up is Gems from the Packers Twitterverse.
This week's Gems from the Packers Twitterverse.
At NFL Spin Zone put on their Skip Bayless trolling hat this week with their tweet, Todd Gurley versus Packers run defense is going to be fun. They struggle against hard-nosed runners. Friend of show Brian Carreyrou provided this quick rebuttal. Hard-nosed runners like Marshawn Lynch, Jamal Charles, and Carlos Hyde, for instance.
Last week, I asked if there was anything left for Aaron Rodgers to improve on. At Bill Michaels tweeted his in his game suggestion, ugly slide. Needs to work on that.
It was ugly.
It was.
Sean Richardson missed part of Sunday's game for what we are officially told was due to cramps. However, Wes Hodkwitz provided this account of Richardson leaving the field. Sean Richardson is running to the locker room like he's double parked. Led me to question, wonder which kind of cramps Sean was having.
And finally, after Aaron Rodgers' pinpoint performance versus the Chiefs received a weak grade over at Pro Football Focus, at Twickball had this tweet to sum up Sunday's score. Final, Green Bay 17, San Francisco 3, Pro Football Focus 10.5. And that was your Cheesehead Radio
Tweets of the Week. Cheesehead Radio brings you Make It or Break It.
Okay, I have to be honest, Stat Girl. I don't read
Yeah.
Pro Football Focus that much to understand what that tweet meant. I just know when they say Packers good or Packers bad.
I just
What does that
assumed
mean?
it meant, here's a random number we're putting up. Enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why to me it was really funny. Like, here's the actual score, and here's just some random number we're throwing in that everyone's going to care about. Which, I mean, I do enjoy Pro Football Focus. As a stat girl, they're a great way to actually get snap counts, breakdown of plays, how many people were targeted, yards after catch, all that good stuff. But Lord only knows what kind of metric they use to get negatives and positives and that kind of stuff. I'm honestly, I had it up because I wanted to know the snap counts for Abadaris and Bachman for later when we talk with our guest, and so I have it on my screen right now. Their overall grades for the game against the 49ers, and Don Barclay has a negative 3.2. I'm like, okay, I get that. He had a bad game, but I don't know what a negative 3.2 means versus Ty Montgomery's negative 2.7. Like, I don't think they were that bad, like that comparable. So I think that's the point is the numbers don't make any sense except to the people who made the numbers. And I think that they're just starts at a wall at the dartboard and saying, oh, he got a 10. Oh, that one missed, negative 20.
I think there's a lot of people who've graduated from college with mathematics degrees who did not get accepted for jobs at Nate Silver's 538 sports blog, and perhaps this is how they bide their time at Pro Football Focus. I have no idea. I mean, it's fun, but like all statistics, you take it with a grain of salt, I guess.
Yes.
What I'm not taking with a grain of salt, at this point, young lady, I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers. Probably not going to take him with a grain of salt. And I don't think any NFL defenses are going to be taking this guy with a grain of salt at all this year. Holy cow. Is this guy on fire? I mean, this guy is having a season. If he won the MVP last season, what is he going to win this season?
Well, he'll probably have to split the MVP with someone this season because I feel like that's just the way the NFL would do it.
Yeah.
Like, you were
we can't
really,
give
really
him something
great. So
Favre had.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Favre did have the split, didn't he? Didn't he share it with
Barry Sanders.
Running back dude? Yeah.
Yes, that running back dude.
Well, I wanted to say Barry Sanders, but then I was like, was it Barry Sanders? I don't want to say the wrong name and then be wrong, so I snapped my fingers and said running back dude, because that was clearly more credible. Oh, tangents are fun.
Yes. And you have them.
I have them a lot, which is why you should not let me speak to myself. Or you could later, and I could just keep talking for a while, and you'll never segue into getting our guest.
Okay. I will try to interject whenever I can. I'm waiting for you to take a breath.
I think what was interesting to see from the Chiefs game versus the 49ers game, I mean, when you watch the Chiefs game, Rodgers just looked, I mean, like we said, on another plane, just given the MVP now, there can be no question. And not that he looked bad against the 49ers. There was just moments of him and the receivers being off. There was clearly the offensive line issues. So maybe Rodgers' timing was off. There was the overthrown ball to Richard Rodgers. Then there was the crazy slide. Then there was the weird left-handed toss, which was amazing but also scary because, like, dude, if you're going to get sacked, stop moving the ball around. Like, that's just a recipe for things to go wrong.
Do you think have you noticed that this year too, the number of times we just start saying, oh my gosh, he's starting to play like Favre. Just the funny little tricks, the little flips and underhand throws and things like that. Is that him just having confidence at this point? Is he just at the top of the game and he just feels like he can do no wrong and he can play a little bit like that? Is there a level of confidence or cockiness? Or is it just fun? Just a kid out there having fun.
Yes, all of the above. I've always thought Rodgers is confidence bordering on cocky. I think I said it a couple of shows ago. His personality and mine, I don't think would match, which is, he's really missing out here. But I just think he has. I mean, that's why.
You may be the only young lady that I've heard actually say that. Aaron Rodgers and I don't think it would work. I don't think it would work between us. I think he'd be better off with this girl over here. And, they get along. I just need to look somewhere else. I got to do what's good for me.
I don't think we'd make good friends. I just don't. But that's not why I want him as my quarterback. Is I don't want to be friends with him. I want to watch my quarterback. But anyways. But that's what makes his one-line quips, his comments in post-game pressers, what makes him so great at, when he's on Celebrity Jeopardy and his commercials. He just has that quick sort of cocky sort of, are you making fun of me? I can't really tell. How do you really feel? Do you like me? Do you don't like me? Attitude about it. So I think he's always had that to him. but I think the confidence is growing not just in himself, but in his teammates and the system that has been built around him. I think it says a lot that even with the young guys like Ty Montgomery, when Ty Montgomery dropped that opening pass, I thought Ty was done for the day because that is old Aaron Rodgers. Old Aaron Rodgers says, you drop a gimme, I'm not coming back to you. That's not the Aaron Rodgers that we saw on Sunday. And so I think his confidence in the younger guys and the players who are around him helps his confidence in knowing, okay, I can go down as I'm being sacked, pass the ball between my hands, and then just chuck it left-handed, and Lays is going to catch it. And I just know that. And so it's not necessarily going, but just also his teammates. And then maybe Favre's return to Lambeau really, like his spirit is just now haunting the grounds. And I say haunting in a good way, but, hopefully it continues to be a good way. There could be some bad haunting. What do you think about Rodgers? I mean, I just talked for like 20 minutes on him.
Actually, I was just talking and I realized I had my mute on.
Oh, okay.
That happens.
You were playing a Jayme.
Yeah, I was. I just kind of, it depends on how you spell it. But I think that where you see Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career, it kind of juxtaposes with where Brett Favre was in that early 2000s. He started taking all the pressure off of himself, and I think Rehor and we were talking about that last week a little bit. That 2003, that wasn't Brett Favre's team. That was Amon Green's team. Amon Green and that fantastic offensive line that we had. With Tauscher and Clifton and the gang. And I remember looking at John and I said, "No, John, it wasn't really Amon. It was still Brett Favre's team." But Brett Favre allowed the rest of the team to make him better, to make the team better. Sometimes I like to believe that maybe if we didn't have Mike Sherman, if we had a different coach, maybe that team would have won a Super Bowl. I mean, it had the potential. It really was strong. It just fell apart in the playoffs. I see the similarities right now with Rodgers, as you said, angry Aaron Rodgers, getting upset, you're making me look bad, that whole impression, and that's it. You're making me look bad when he would blow up at a receiver, blow up at an offensive lineman. Now you're seeing that confidence, and he says, yeah, I can go out there and I can whip these. He's not leading the league in pass attempts. He's not leading the league in yardage. He's not leading the league in a lot of things except just being gosh darn downright efficient. Most touchdowns, no interceptions. He's controlling his part of the game, but he has no problem turning around and letting Eddie Lacy gain 90 yards throughout the game. He has no problem letting Neo come in and run some. He has no problem with running some of those. And I think he's having fun with some of the great new formations they're running, whether you put Randall Cobb in the backfield or Ty Montgomery. I think he's having fun with that. And it's fun to see him. This is a looser team that you're seeing. I think there's a lot of similarities to that Brett Favre of 2003 and Aaron Rodgers of 2015.
A couple of things. When we're talking about Favre, when I think of crazy shovel pass Favre, I do think of some of the snowy game versus Seattle in the playoffs and some of his later stuff. But I feel more younger Favre when he was just maybe not as schooled in the game and really just a kid out there trying to make whatever play he could. And it's different in Rodgers in that it didn't happen in Rodgers' earlier part of the career. It's happening not in the later part, but, middle part as he matures more. So that's just an interesting comparison. Then I also wonder how much the difference with McCarthy not calling the plays anymore. Is that giving him more free reign? Does he just have a different, just changing up that system that's been in place, even if the system's working great. We've all been in a job, and someone quits, they move on, they go to a different job. The new person who comes in will always hopefully bring a breath of fresh air. They're not necessarily better or worse, but it's different, and they provide a different perspective. So maybe that's helping Rodgers be able to flourish in a different capacity.
I base this analysis just completely on my own observation and nothing factual whatsoever. But I agree with you that I think the Mike McCarthy stepping away has loosened up this offense. I'm not saying that there was a personality conflict between Rodgers and McCarthy, but there's kind of that dad-son relationship, maybe similar to what Holmgren and Favre used to have. And I think as McCarthy is backed up, you're seeing the offense maybe a little more creative. You know, we've criticized Mike McCarthy and his play calling in the past. We've looked at it a couple times and said, hey, gosh, you're being stubborn running the ball with John Kuhn on third down.
That was
and
a really polite way of saying it.
It was, you know, and it was so funny because John Kuhn goes in the game and scores a touchdown, and everyone in the Packer Twitterverse goes, "No, oh, he scored." Well, okay, fine, you know, it's just a different.
Caribou had a good explanation for that when he goes, and that's why you don't call it every game. When you do it once every 4 games, it's a surprise. And it works.
And you didn't expect it. You figured, no, guys, we're never going to do that again. But he did. Yeah. And you're seeing stuff that they're doing. And I don't know if, I guess to answer your point or your question or whatever, is it because Rodgers himself has more control, or is he calling the plays? And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I feel like he's more comfortable with the plays that are being called. And I think that's a testament to, and then you look at special teams doing a bit better this year too.
A bit better.
You know,
I mean, we still got some math issues, but
we do.
But I mean, and even if it's not, you know, just going back to Rodgers real quick, even if it's not that he's calling more of the plays, maybe it's just that different relationship. I mean, like I said, I keep going back to working relationships just because I started a new job, you know, and when you've worked with somebody for 4 years every day doing the same, and you're both in the same roles, it can get tiresome. It becomes predictable, so maybe you stop challenging things. Maybe you stop saying, is this our best way? And you bring somebody else new in, maybe he's not calling any more plays than he did last year. Maybe he's not making any more adjustments at the line. I don't know. We don't know. But maybe just that having that different relationship is producing out of both Clements and Rodgers better results.
It's fresh and fun.
Yes, fresh and fun.
Yes.
4-0 Packers.
Kind of like Cheesehead Radio. Fresh and fun.
Fresh and fun. That sounds like a laundry soap.
It does a little bit. So what do you want to talk about? We had a couple minutes here before we bring on our guest, who is Eric Baranczyk of PackersNews. Pick a topic, Jayme.
Well, I think you started to go a little bit in special teams, and I saw you tweet during the game that should Maste start to get Al's, you know, should Al take his old Crosby issues? Yes, and I mean Al's was hate-driven, but also, I mean, statistical-driven. But you know, it was also. He had that, once Al had that laser on Crosby, it was not going off. Crosby could miss 2 field goals in the next game, and that laser's right there. Knock on wood. But, you know, you'd be concerned about Maste, and at the same time, the rest of special teams seems to be doing so much better.
Yes. And I'll address just from my point of view, and I've always had this opinion, especially as Crosby was concerned, and I think the same thing with Maste. Maste's problems didn't start this year. His problems clearly started last year, so it's not a Slocum problem or a Zook problem. It's a head problem. Whether you're a punter or you're a kicker, it's like a golf swing. And do you play golf, Jayme?
No, I don't do anything with a ball and hand-eye coordination.
Okay. I don't much either. But, you know, I've known a lot of people who do, and there's so much involved with as your body changes and as you get older, and what you did when you're 25 doesn't work, and you go out there and you hit the ball, and all of a sudden you realize you're overcompensating, and so you do a little bit more. Mentally, you start taking yourself out of your swing because you're trying too hard. You're thinking too much about your elbow and where it comes down. You're taking your eye off the ball because, you know, you want it to go this way and not slice. And sometimes you just got to break yourself down and just start over. And sometimes it's just going back and having fun again because you're thinking about it too much. And I think a little bit with Maste, you know, you're not fighting, you're not passing, you're not running, you're not breaking tackles, you're not blocking. You just get the ball and you kick it. And it's just the same motion over and over again, just like a golf swing. And Maste was a hero. I mean, he was a hero back, you know, in the Super Bowl year, and for 2-3 years after that, he has been nothing but solid, and all of a sudden, boom. Is he old? No, he's still a young kid. But I think he has to break that down, and I think that's important for Zook to get and work with this kid and get his head on straight and stop overthinking and overdoing it because, you know, he's thinking too much about planting his left foot, and it's going off his right foot and getting shanked out of bounds.
And I think you can see, it's not like his leg is gone, like you're saying. I agree. It's a lot more mental, especially the way that you explained breaking it down.
Mm-hmm.
Think of he had that on Sunday, he had that great punt. And we're all like, sweet, awesome punt by Maste. Where has that been? And then, of course, there was the illegal formation or whatever, and so they had to do it again. And, of course, he shanked the next one, which we only ended up with the 13-yard difference because the ball rolled. Thank God that they allow that to happen. Could you imagine if it was, nope, that's where it hit. But so you can see the leg is still there, still exists.
Mm-hmm.
He can still do it. It's just something takes him out of it. It would be different if even on the ones he didn't shank, even on the ones that you couldn't see him trying to push, if every kick was wobbly, wrong, weird, there are still some glimmers there, and you're just like, why? I don't know who do you bring in for that?
Well, they always talked about that with Crosby, bringing in a specialist. Remember when they used to talk about bringing in a specialist for Crosby, and Slocum forbid him from doing that only Slocum wanted to work with Crosby? You may have to bring someone in, but you may just bring in a hypnotist. You may just bring
maybe he should start doing yoga with Yoga Bear.
With Yoga Bear, with Raji. I'll bet you I know who would be a good person to get them both going on that. I
really think the Packers should hire me.
I think they should.
So whoever from the Packers organization is listening right now.
I've had an application with them for years. So you get yours in and we'll go in together.
I mean, yoga helps focus your mind. It really does.
It does.
Helps keep you calm.
The Ginger Wolverine could do some yoga.
Yes.
Wait, do you hear that?
I thought it. There it is. It's been a while since I've heard that sound. Is that?
I haven't heard that sound.
Cheesy copter?
It's the Cheesy Copter. Must be Kyle. Here with him on the ground in Titletown.
On the ground in Titletown with the mayor, Kyle Kuzino.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. It's good to be back with you here on Cheesehead Radio. Now, if you're coming to Green Bay either this weekend or next weekend, pay attention because I have a couple of quick notes that might interest you. This Sunday, prior to the Rams game, the Packer Women's Association will be holding their 29th annual food drive. The Packer wives, including player wives and coaches' wives, will be walking around Lambeau Field parking lot collecting donations and non-perishable food items for Paul's Pantry here in Green Bay. Like I said, this is the 29th annual food drive, and in those 29 years, they've collected over 1 million non-perishable food items and canned goods and donated over $300,000 in cash donations for Paul's Pantry. So if you are coming, remember those, and don't worry, if you don't see any of the wives walking around the parking lot, they will have collection boxes and donation boxes at all of the gates entering Lambeau Field. Also on Sunday, the University of Wisconsin Badger Band is going to be in town to perform the national anthem prior to kickoff. And stick around after the game. Win or lose, the Badger Band will also be performing their famous fifth quarter performance like they do at Camp Randall after all the Badger games down in Madison. If you're also going to the game, keep your eyes open for the giveaway item. Kohl's Department Store is sponsoring a pink breast cancer awareness towel that will be given to all fans in attendance Sunday at Lambeau Field. Next weekend, the weekend leading up to the San Diego Charger game, is our 5th annual Throwback Weekend event to be held here in Green Bay. We had to make some changes this year. We're not doing the tailgate party, but we are going to do the 7 o'clock party at the Green Bay Distillery. That is October 17th, next Saturday. We had to make some changes just due to some registration issues that we had. We didn't have a hard number of people that we knew that were going to be coming to town, so we had to kind of tweak some of the event details, but we will be going strong next Saturday, like I said, October 17th at the Green Bay Distillery. Check throwbackweekend.com for all the details that you need. We're not doing any registration for this event anymore. Like I said, with the registration issues that we had, we're just going to do kind of a show up, hang out, have a few beers. You're on your own for food and drink. We're going to have some of the media members that have been there in the past. I've got confirmation from Wes Hodkowitz from the Green Bay Press-Gazette, hopefully Rob Domofsky from ESPN.com, and hopefully Jason Wilde from ESPN Wisconsin, along with hopefully a couple more local media members as well. So a reminder, October 17th, next Saturday, 7 p.m. at the Green Bay Distillery, Throwback Weekend 5. Hope to see as many people there as possible. From what I understand, we are going to have a contingent from the UK Packers group. That's right, coming all the way from England, Ireland, Scotland, and such. So that should be a good time. We're going to have hopefully some people from Australia, some people from Mexico, I understand, and then the usual cast of characters from all over the U.S. So we hope to see you there. But that's all I got. Cheesehead Radio, on the ground in Simontown. This is Kyle Cousineau. Go Pack Go.
Cheesehead Radio special guest.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, thank you to Kyle Cousineau for a great job on the ground. But right now it's time for our special guest, and his name is Eric Baranczyk, and he is of the Green Bay Press-Gazette's Packers News. You can catch his writing over there at PackersNews.com. Good stuff. Eric, I believe also your Twitter handle, Eric Baranczyk, CZYK1. Is that right?
That's correct.
Good. I can tell some of these Wisconsin last names, and some of our people from out of state may not know how to spell them or say them as well as I might. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Trying to enjoy some of this weather out here. My goodness, it is fantastic tonight.
Yeah. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Wisconsin, just driving down the road, heading back home. And
driving?
It's like 45, 50 degrees. This is my kind of weather.
It was beautiful. I was out in it myself today, so good stuff. So, Eric, talk to me a little bit. We could talk forever, and in fact, we just did about Aaron Rodgers. But let's switch it a little bit, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on the defense this year, especially after the first game. We had some doubts. Obviously the Bears kind of ran against us at will. Suddenly things are coming together, and then even in a game where Aaron Rodgers wasn't perfect, the defense really stepped up, halftime adjustments, etc. What's going on? Is this defense for real?
Well, I think a couple things. After the first game against the Bears, the way the Bears attacked the Packers was to the outside, basically D-gap or outside shoulder of the tackle to the boundary. That's where they were attacking them, and they had some problems there with safeties coming up and cornerbacks being a little bit unwilling to tackle. But primarily, the last couple of games where the running attack was trying to get between the tackles and just outside shoulder to C-gap. That defensive front right now is playing lights out. I mean, B.J. Raji's playing like he was better right now than when he was first 2 years when he was really, really good. He is playing lights out, outstanding. Couple that with what you got with Daniels and throw Mike Pennell in there. I mean, those guys are playing fantastic. It's been a long time since you've been able to watch that offensive line stalemated or even pushed back in the run game. I mean, it just hasn't happened recently. So what's happening right now is they're being able to stop. The offensive line is being pretty much stalemated at the line of scrimmage. So that allows linebackers to be able to scrape, laterally left and right, safeties to be able to come up and fill both the alley and running and gaps. Sometimes they have them filling B gaps, even C gaps. So those things are able to happen when the offensive line is stalemated. There's not a lot of wash, like we like to say, to have to climb through and get around and go around. They can just go laterally up and back and forth. Plus, you got Clay Matthews playing really spectacular football right now, and you saw it against San Fran, where he's the one thing that I was really excited about having him in the middle was he's going to be able to be an A-gap rusher. So he's going to add a dimension because an A-gap rusher, if you can get someone through the gap, that quarterback, all they see is number 52 running at them, that's going to change things a little bit. Balls are going to come out early. They're going to throw interceptions. Things like that are going to happen. So being where they are right now, playing on the run game, really helps them out because now it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6. Now it's pin your ears back, defensive backs, let's play pass. We're not going to worry about filling run. So it all starts at the line of scrimmage. I don't care what side of the ball you're on. And the line of scrimmage on the defensive side is just playing lights out.
Perfect.
Okay, Eric, well, you said it. It all starts with the line of scrimmage. The offensive line not playing lights out. They had a rough day on Sunday. What do they need to do to keep Rodgers?
Let me ask you this question. Why do you say they're having a rough go of it, the offensive line?
A lot of the holding calls, and if you're holding, that leads me to believe you're getting beat and you're making a last-ditch resort to keep Rodgers alive.
Well, if you're not holding, you're not trying. That's that's the way linemen look at it. You're talking to an ex-lineman, so you got to be careful about that, throwing the holding call out there. If you're not, they're holding every single play, and they're just getting caught once in a while. I think the offensive line, the way that they're playing right now, they're giving up 6 sacks in 4 games. That's pretty solid. That's not that bad. Everybody sees when you look at, especially not so much last week, but the week before and the week before that, the way that they were attacking the defensive ends or the outside linebackers was they were going to try and just run him past Rodgers, so that there's in the guard center guard, those are the guys that are walling off and creating the opportunity for the quarterback to step up. They're the ones that create the pocket. The other guys, the tackles, were just running them out, and what that did was opened up running lanes for Rodgers to be able to step outside. Now, when you looked at the way the Niners looked at it, they played they played Rodgers like you would play a running quarterback, where you're just going to corral him in the pocket. They're not going to let a gap between the tackle and the outside linebacker or the tackle and the end, so there was nowhere for Rodgers to go. And that was a pretty good scheme. They kept him in the pocket, and they didn't let him move around and keep plays alive. The one time that they got off of that, they had a substitute defensive end, and he stupidly goes running upfield, and that's when Rodgers ran down almost to the 1-yard line. So I don't think the offensive line is playing all that bad. I think people are expecting the offensive line, especially the offensive tackle, to just stand there and wall guys up, and that's just not reality. Reality is that you're playing against athletes, and they're not asking these guys to go up there and stonewall these guys. And they say, well, Rodgers is being flushed out of the pocket. That's his game. He's going to move out of the pocket. He's not going to stand back there all the time. So, everybody's down on the O-line. I have to disagree and say I give him a B- or a B.
Okay. And I mean, I'm fine with Rodgers scrambling out of the pocket. I mean, he's really athletic and makes great plays when he's out of the pocket. But looking forward this weekend to the Rams have a pretty strong defensive front. I mean, San Francisco's not too shabby, but I would say the Rams have a strong defensive front. Will Barkley in particular and the offensive line be able to get to continue your B- grade this weekend?
I think the way that, Thursday nights are my film night, so I didn't watch a whole lot of the Rams. I've watched a little bit here and there of them, but I think the way that their outside rushers play, it'll be the better, Barkley will be in a better position to be successful because he'll just run those guys off, and Rodgers will be able to step up and out. So I think the way that they match up well that way, where I'm more concerned is going to be on the running game, is whether or not they're going to be able to get to Laurinaitis, and if they're going to stick with a tight end in the backfield when they're going to be in their 2-back set, and how he's going to be able, because he's 100 times better blocker than he was last year. I'm speaking of Richard Rodgers, but I'd rather have 30 in there blocking. Now it takes a little bit from the passing game if they want to motion out. That's kind of a change that they're going to have to think about there. But I think the running game to me is a little bit more scary than what they have to do against the pass.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Hey, kind of sticking with offense and sets this week, you wrote this week a little about Tom Clements and the use of this 4-receiver, 1 tight end set, and Cobb, Montgomery in the backfield, and how they're able to go out as running back. They both played like that in college. This is giving teams something more. I mean, you're already talking about Aaron Rodgers as a scrambler, as a pocket passer. As you said, he can do both. But you got Eddie Lacy pounding the ball. And now you're running this wackadizzle thing with 4 wide receivers in the backfield. Does Tom Clement have anything else up his sleeve?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I think when you look at the volume that defensive coordinators have to prepare for when you're facing this offense, there's a lot there. There's a lot of formations, and not only that, but they run no huddle. So you got to have the right personnel on the field because substituting is going to get you. You're going to get 12-man on the field calls. You're going to get guys running around, not ready. So it's really difficult, and it really puts a lot of pressure on D coordinators because now not only do you have to look at their normal base offense, which is 3 wides, tight, and a 1-back. They got 3 wides and 2-back set, whether it be a tight end or a fullback in the backfield. You got a 1-back with 4 wides. Now you got this thing because what happens is up in the box, you got defensive coaches that their only job is to sit there with binoculars and talk and shout out numbers who's on the field. Then the defensive coordinator says, okay, we got 5 wide receivers marching out on the field. We got to be in dime. Now you're looking at a position where you got dime, one linebacker most of the time, and now you got a safety or a slot cornerback playing at linebacker depth inside the tackle box, which is not a good spot for him most likely. So you're putting them in positions that A, they don't want to be in, and B, they can come out in two backs with two wide receivers in the backfield, one wide receiver in the backfield, or everybody else. So there's a lot of volume there that they got to cover and be prepared for. So the chess match there is to come out. If you watch, they come out in a different formation almost every series and find out what's working and then kind of go from there. So, and the other thing is too is that a lot of teams have that kind of scat back, or that kind of they call. You hear the guys on TV call him the change of pace guy. Packers really don't have that. They got three hammers. So that's where having 88 maybe running the ball a little bit, or 18. That's that kind of change of pace thing that can get defenses, especially linebackers and safeties, off kilter a little bit.
Yeah, fun to watch.
That's sure.
We spoke with Paul Immig last week, who was under the assumption that Justin Pirlo would get the call up to the 53. Instead, the Packers went with the newly signed Backman and then activated Aberdare. Abby didn't play one offense snap, and Backman just the three. Why do you think they went with Abby and Backman over Pirlo? And do you see either of the two putting in real work with the offense this week or next week before the bye week?
Oh, that's a tough question. With Aberdare, with Devontae Adams down, they kind of needed to have another guy in there, so in case there was another injury up and down the line. And I think the Packers really like him. I think they think he's got some potential there. It sounds like he's been, in practices that they really like what they see. With the tight end situation, I don't know why they, typically sometimes these guys have had four tight ends on the active roster, so it's difficult to understand. But I think they do a nice job of making sure that they're balanced on both sides of the ball. And I would expect to see more of Janis and Aberdare, but I guess that's I don't know. They've surprised me this week when they came out in that 5 wide receiver set and they're running two backs in the backfield, and it was that was a surprise. So who knows? I mean, they can come out with a lot of different stuff. It seems like they're a little bit more creative under Clemens than they were under McCarthy. Not saying taking anything away from McCarthy and what he did, because I think he's a phenomenal offensive mind, but it just seems like there's some more creativity going on there, and it's pretty exciting.
All right. Hey, Eric, I love seeing Colin Kaepernick get taken down 14 or 15 notches like he got taken down this weekend. But just slightly behind that was watching Anquan Boldin get taken down, because, he's really gashed us in the past. And to have him kind of locked down was great. You wrote this week a little bit about Sam Shields and how he was able to play with him. And we didn't expect necessarily Sam Shields. There's almost a little bit. It's kind of like, we had some turnover on the defensive back. Sam Shields he's shown up to play this year, and he's playing a little bit like Sam Shields of old. Sum up a little bit with Sam Shields and maybe how you're seeing the rest of that secondary starting to come together, even with the injury to Morgan Burnett.
Well, the one thing with Sam Shields is that guy, you have to understand that he is a world-class athlete. That guy can run, he can jump. On the interception that he had over Bolden, you saw him just it just looked like he was jogging. He's just jogging, and then he sees the ball in the air, and boom, he's gone, and it makes a play. That's pretty unique. A lot of people don't understand how difficult that is. Most D-backs in the league, if you're watching them, they don't have the opportunity to turn and look at the ball, because they're using all of they got, every ounce of juice or athletic ability that they got just to stay with the receiver. And then, more importantly, you see these guys, him and Randall, being able to not only stay with the receiver, but then have enough left in the tank to turn and jump and look for the football. And being able to turn your head is 90% of it. And if you're just struggling to stay up with the receiver, it's really hard. So he's a very unique individual as far as athleticism goes. He's a little sloppy with his technique, and that's why sometimes, guys get by him. But, even if they do get by him, the guy can just flat out run and catch up and still make a play. Not only that, but he can jump too. He's got some hops in those feet. So pretty impressive athlete that you have there. And, you see some of that, not as impressive or not as flashy of the athleticism that you have, but Randall seems to be able to run with guys and have some pretty good ball skills, where he still has enough to jump up and make a play after the ball's in the air, which again is not an easy thing to do when you're trying to run with a guy who's got 4.5 speed and 6 inches on you or 4 or 5 inches on you. That's a tough thing. That's a tough pass. So what the best thing about the secondary is that helps them is the pass rush. And if you can do what they're doing and keep them in long yardage situations on second and third down. First down is so important. If they rip off 5-6 yards on a run, now it's second and 3. Now the playbook is wide open. Now your D-backs they got to be looking run and pass, and that's really hard to do. And same with linebackers. So you kind of just give up and say, all right, let's get on first down again and shut them down. So that first down that they're doing right now, the way that they're playing first down and being able to keep guys and teams in third and long, second and long, really helps out the secondary, and so that they don't have to always be looking fill all the time. So, in the way that, you look at the other guy in the secondary that sticks out, we hear his name all the time, is Clinton Dix, and his ability to not only fill in the run, but, a lot of times those safeties, you get one or the other, a guy who's going to be a run filler or a guy who's going to be someone who's going to be covering the pass or a better in pass than in run, and this guy can do it both. He fills hard, he's able to play the pass well, doesn't get beat a lot over the top, and you don't hear him getting beat. You hear, and the other thing that you see now, and you should watch this, is guys know where he is. I mean, if you watch, there was a play in the fourth quarter, I think it was the first play of the fourth quarter, where Colin Kaepernick was running around the corner. He got strung out by Jerome Elliott, and 21 comes flying up, and he just slid. This guy's going to hurt me. So I think he's starting to get a reputation for that. He's starting to do some things really exciting, and that is key when you got receivers who are looking around wondering if they get a little bit of alligator arms because they know their ribs are going to be hurting when 21 gets to them.
Okay, Eric, at the beginning of the season, many of us in Blogosphere fandom land were pretty skeptical of how Mike McCarthy would take to his new non-play calling role. Yet I feel like on Sunday, you mentioned earlier, we're seeing halftime adjustments. I feel like that's the first time in a long time I was actually able to tangibly, as a fan, sit down and see them. CD and I were talking earlier about how maybe that's playing into Rodgers and some of his just being out there having fun shovel pass things going on. How do you think the team is handling and Mike McCarthy are handling the switch from McCarthy handing off play calling abilities, and do you think it's helping with things like the halftime adjustments, special teams?
I'm not so sure about the halftime adjustment stuff, but what I get from pressers and talking with the guys, that they really like having Mike floating around into different meeting rooms and being able to share things through a different set of eyes that they're not accustomed to, and I think their attention to detail on the special teams. I'm not sure if it's Zook or if it's McCarthy, but it's hard to say. We're not in the meeting room, so it's very difficult to tell. But I think he's having a great time, and the one thing is this: when you're coaching, when you're a position coach, you're coaching nonstop. That's what you're doing. As you go up the ladder, D coordinator to head coach, the less actual field coaching that you're doing. There's a lot more other things that you have to worry about. And, it seems like he's got the offense, and now he coach again, kind of. And I saw during training camp, too, him walking around a little more. And when you're a coach and you can have an opportunity to coach, that's what you love to do. And being a head coach sometimes isn't as much fun. But being a position coach, you're doing what you love to do at your level, right there on the field, in the trenches. That's a ton of fun, and that's not, it's a job, but that's a ton of fun. That's where you want to be. So, having him moving around and stuff, I think is rejuvenated him from what it sounds like in press conferences and what he has stated. I don't know behind closed doors, but to me, I think it's a really positive step.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking with Eric Baranczyk. You can check out his work over at the Green Bay Press-Gazette's PackersNews.com. Please give him a follow on Twitter. He is at Eric Baranczyk1. I'll have to spell that last name for you, BARANCZYK1. You do not see this last name outside of Wisconsin that often, so luckily I know how to pronounce it. Eric, we want to say thank you for coming back and joining us on Cheesehead Radio. Keep up the great work. We're going to keep reading. Keep putting it out for us, all right?
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it. Hey, guys, have a great night. Thanks for the questions. They're good, solid questions.
You betcha. Hey, thanks a lot,
Eric.
my friend.
All right, you guys take care.
All right, good night.
Bye.
Well, there we go.
There we go. That was fun.
Yeah. So, before we get into the game predictions, talk a little bit about this Rams offense. Do you know they just switched to a zone blocking scheme?
I read that in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel online for the show, and every time I think of that, I go, it'll probably work for you.
Because it didn't work for us?
Well, it's one of those things like, Yeah, I mean, it did. It didn't. It was more like, hey, this is our scheme now, and that's all we're really going to talk about is the scheme, and not really do our jobs. And sometimes a wrong clock is right twice a day, so sometimes it'll work out really well, but most get really difficult to plug different people in, different spots, and gets hurt. You know, it's just, that's, whenever I see it, I go, I remember we tried that. It'll be better for you, because everything is always better for other people.
Maybe it's good for a team that, I don't want to say that the Rams are rebuilding, but they've got a young team and they're trying to develop. And you think about when the Packers tried the zone blocking scheme back in 2006, 2007, and they had a couple running backs that weren't too, but Ryan Grant was actually pretty darn good as a zone blocking scheme running back. I mean, he if anyone made it work, it was him. But like I said, it's nice to see us maybe back in a more traditional run set, having a guy who's just going to, run straight into someone and knock him over and keep pushing the pile and keep running. It's nice to have that feel back for us. So it'll be interesting to see how the Packers defense plays that, because at one point the zone blocking scheme, when Denver ran it and was the first to run it, and it was surprising and no one expected it, it wasn't that bad. But I don't know how many successful cases we've had with zone blocking schemes being run only as that. Yet at the same point, Gurley ran for 150 yards last week, so maybe it's working okay. Who knows?
In his first game.
Second game.
His first game. Second game? Oh, that's right.
Ran for 9 yards. First game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well,
not much there.
So maybe we should be looking at average then, and then I'll feel a little better.
Let's see, 9 plus 150. Okay, yeah, that's not going to be too bad. We can deal with that.
There were 2 games. I can handle that.
So it'll be interesting. All right, let's get to our predictions.
Cheesehead Radio, Packer Game Predictions.
The Green Bay Packers come home victorious 4-0. They are 9.5-point favorites over the visiting St. Louis Rams. They got a lot of history there, those two teams. It's going to be a noon game on Sunday at Lambeau Field. How is this game going to turn out? We're first of all going to ask the amazing Jayme Snowden.
Well, I'm not going to give them the 9.5, but I'll give them the 9. I have Packers 27, Rams 18. I have the 18 solely because I'm assuming that the Rams are going to have 10. It's going to be 27-10 in the fourth. They're going to get the touchdown and then go for the extra 2 to make it a 9-point game so they can get it in a touchdown field goal tie or touchdown win. So
you're going with the fourth. You're going with the fourth quarter comeback this week. Close, but comeback. Yeah.
Yes, again, the Packers will be able to hold the Rams pretty much, but at the end it's going to look a little bit closer than it probably was throughout the game. Even though 9 points is still not that close, but whatever. So
basically you're picking the score that's going to frustrate every person who has a parlay on this game because it's a 9.5-point favorite, and you're going to pick the Packers to win by 9.
Well, it could be worse, and it could be like when the Packers won the Super Bowl in '96 when it was the line was 14. And they won by 14.
Okay.
And it's a push for everybody. So at least this day, just take the under.
Somebody wins. Somebody take the ring. Yeah.
Because there's no half a point unless you're Pro Football Focus.
Oh, we can tie it all together beginning to end.
Yes, we can.
My name is C.D. Angeli. I'm going to predict a little bit of a closer game. I think as great of a game as it's going to be, I'm going to say Packers 21, Rams 17. I think we saw them slowing down a little bit. I think they need to have a little adversity might happen this week. No problem. As long as they're in great shape for Throwback Weekend, I think that's going to be great. So it's all good. It's all good.
It is all good.
Yeah.
Come on, undefeated, baby.
Yeah. Hey, did you see the video on YouTube of that kid the high school kid that caught a quarterback trying to spike the football? Did you see that at all? It was on ESPN?
I work now, and that's all I do. I'm sorry, there's disasters on the East Coast, there's disasters on the West Coast, and I'm in the middle trying to help everybody.
How do you do it in the middle?
YouTube?
Shouldn't you go out to those coasts if you're trying to help someone?
No,
that's not how it works.
I send them stuff. If they needed me, but I prepare things, send them.
Okay.
Yes.
Care package.
I send other people.
Okay.
Well,
okay. trying to
understand.
Let's
explain the Red Cross now.
I think you do a great job. I'm proud
Thank
of
you. But no, I haven't seen YouTube. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's a really cool thing. Go type it in.
Defensive lineman
intercept spike. It was pretty awesome. So it's cool stuff.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us on a Wednesday night edition of Cheesehead Radio, and a special thank you to Eric Baranczyk for also joining. Make sure to head on over to PackersTalk.com to get all of our podcasts. Please follow @PackersTalkNet on Twitter and like the Packers Talk Network page on Facebook. Cheesehead Radio and all the Packers Talk podcasts are available on iTunes. Just Google Packers Talk iTunes and you'll find it. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review if you can. You can also listen in by using Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, or your favorite podcasting app and search for Packers Talk. If you're on Facebook, please like our Packers Talk page and also look for Packers Beat. It's a private group, but if you request to be added and you listen to this show, you're in. Finally, please be sure to support our wonderful sponsors, Mayfield Sports Marketing @Mayfield Sport on Twitter, and Waukesha Sports Cards @WalkSports on Twitter as well. They do a lot for us, so show them some love.
Absolutely. Jayme, nice doing a show. Just you and me in the Cheesy studio. Hey?
We survived.
We did.
I'm proud of us.
Barely anything went wrong. It was pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah, we had
anyway.
Kyle, we had the Cheesy Copter.
Cheesy Copter, Cheesy Studio, everything cheesy. It was awesome.
Liquid cheesy.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us here on Cheesehead Radio. Good night. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.
Eddie Lacy, Mike Daniels, Gilbert Brown, Don Barclay, Micah Hyde, your Green Bay Packers, yesterday's legends and today's superstars. From corporate or nonprofit events to private parties, add some spice, hire a Packers player from Mayfield Sports Marketing. For details, just go to PackersTalk.com and click on Player Appearances.
Are you looking for some signed Packer memorabilia?
Look no further than Waukesha Sports Cards.
If a Green Bay Packer can sign it, Waukesha Sports Cards has it.
Check our website for upcoming Packer player and legend signings.
Go to WaukeshaSportsCards.com.